You are walking through the BlueRiver site. It is Tuesday morning, 6:42. Production has started, cleaning in place is running, contractors are repairing an external pipe, the wastewater pretreatment system is operating, and then you notice something. A cleaning chemical container has been damaged. The liquid is spreading across the floor. A stormwater drain is only a few meters away. No supervisor is beside you. No environmental manager is there yet. For the next 60 seconds, the outcome depends on the decisions that are made. So, do you stop the source? Do you protect the drain? Who do you call? What happens if the spill reaches the environment? This is not just a story, it's the moment when the environmental management system is tested. And by the end of this episode, you should be able to answer one practical question. What should happen in those first 60 seconds? Now, this episode continues the journey. In episode 9, BlueRiver defined operational controls, operating criteria, control points, triggers, roles, and evidence. In episode 10, BlueRiver asked whether people were competent and were enough to perform those controls. Now we move into a different situation. What if the control fails? What if the situation changes faster than the routine control can manage? That is why emergency preparedness and response matter. The topic of episode 11. What if something goes wrong? A common mistake is to start emergency preparedness by opening a template procedure. BlueRiver should start somewhere else. Okay? It should start with the site. Where are the chemicals stored? Where are stormwater drains? Where does wastewater flow? Where can contaminated water accumulate? Where do contractors work? Where can water supply be interrupted? Where could a small problem become an environmental incident? Emergency preparedness starts with understanding the place. The procedure should come after this thinking, but only after this thinking. So, emergency response is never just one person reading a procedure. It is a team activity. The first observer may notice the problem. The operator may stop the source if it is safe. The supervisor may coordinate the first response. Maintenance may isolate equipment or utilities. Utilities may control the wastewater system. Warehouse may manage chemical storage information. Contractors may be involved in the event. The environmental manager may assess environmental consequences and notifications needed. And the site manager may make operational decisions. So, before we discuss actions, we need to know who is in the scene. Before I continue, pause for a moment. So, imagine you are walking through the BlueRiver site. Which situation worries you most? A chemical container leaking near a drain? A wastewater tank close to overflow? A contractor washing tools outside? Firewater flowing towards stormwater? A sudden drought restriction? So, what should you check first? This is the type of thinking we want emergency preparedness to create, not passive knowledge, practical judgment. Emergency preparedness should not be disconnected from the EMS. It should come from the work already done. So, from environmental aspects, BlueRiver knows where it interacts with the water. From compliance obligations, it knows which limits, permits, reporting duties, and prevention requirements matter. From operational controls, it knows what must normally be controlled. From competence and awareness, It knows who must act and what they must understand. So, emergency preparedness brings these together. It asks, if this scenario happens, how do we respond? Let's enter the first scenario. A cleaning chemical container is damaged near an outdoor stormwater drain. This is a small event only if it is controlled quickly. The first priority is always people's safety. If it is safe, the next priority is to stop the source. Then BlueRiver must protect the drain. This is critical because a stormwater drain may lead directly to the environment or to a drainage system not designed for contaminated water. Then the spill must be contained. The supervisor must be informed. Contaminated material must be collected and managed correctly, and the event must be recorded and escalated according to the rules. In this scenario, the first minutes matter. Now, here's a quick decision. What is the best first response? Start cleaning the visible spill? Protect the stormwater drain? Wait for the environmental manager? Take a photograph first? Well, the best answer is not an isolated action. It's a sequence. Protect people. Stop the source if safe. Protect the drain. Then contain the spill. The order matters. If the drain is not protected quickly, the visible spill may disappear from the floor but enter the environment. Now, let's move to the wastewater system. The pretreatment alarm is triggered. The cause is not yet clear. It may be pump failure, abnormal pH, high COD load, tank overfill, a blocked line, or loss of treatment capacity. So this is where emergency response must connect with operational control. BlueRiver needs to know what the alarm means. Can discharge continue? Can flow be diverted or contained? Who investigates? Who decides escalation? When is notification required? So if BlueRiver only starts thinking after the alarm, well, the response will be slower. Now, not every deviation is an emergency. That is why BlueRiver should define levels. Normal control means the process is within the operating range. A warning level means investigate and correct before the situation becomes serious. An emergency level means contain, escalate, and notify if required. For example, wastewater pH approaching an internal alarm limit may require investigation. A tank near overflow may require immediate operational action. An uncontrolled discharge may trigger emergency response. This is important because good emergency preparedness does not replace operational control. It builds on it. Now, scenario 3. Firewater is often underestimated. Okay, so during a fire, water is used for firefighting, and that water may carry chemicals, oils, packaging residues, detergents, or combustion residues. If that water reaches drains, soil, groundwater, or surface water, the environmental impact can be serious. So BlueRiver should ask these questions in advance. Where will the firewater flow? Can drains be isolated? Is there containment capacity? Who speaks with emergency services? Who evaluates notification needs? What evidence will be needed afterwards? So this scenario is often best tested through a tabletop exercise because it involves layout, decision-making, external communication, and escalation. Now, let us return to contractor control. Okay, scenario number 4. A contractor starts outdoor repair, so they start outdoor repair work without drain protection. Nothing has happened yet, but the risk is already present. So the correct response may be to stop the work, make the area safe, protect the drain, inform the supervisor, record the situation. And this is important because emergency preparedness is not only about reacting after pollution occurs. It's also about stopping the situation before it becomes an incident. A good EMS gives people the authority and confidence to intervene early. And last scenario, scenario 5, okay? A drought restriction is different from a spill, but it can still be a sudden and serious disruption for BlueRiver. So water is central to the product and the process. So if a restriction is announced, BlueRiver may need to review production planning, cleaning routines, non-essential water uses, reuse options, customer commitments, communication with authorities, and monitoring frequency. So, the key decision is simple but difficult. What water uses are essential and what can be reduced first? This should not be decided for the first time under pressure. It should be prepared in advance. So, emergency response needs role clarity. The first observer raises the alarm and protects themselves. The operator may stop the source if it's safe. The supervisor coordinates the first response. Maintenance isolates equipment, valves, pumps, or utilities. Utilities controls the wastewater system. The environmental manager assesses environmental impact and notification needs. The site manager makes operational decisions. The contractor contact controls contractor involvement. So when roles are unclear, time is lost, and in an environmental emergency, time can determine whether the event is contained or becomes pollution. Preparedness also depends on equipment and information. People cannot respond well if the resources are not available. So BlueRiver may need spill kits, drain covers, absorbents, pumps, hoses, temporary storage, valves, and isolation points. Personal protective equipment, emergency contacts, a drainage map, safety data sheets, and communication tools also. But availability is not enough. People must know where the equipment is, how to use it, when to use it, and who has the authority to decide. Emergency equipment should not be symbolic. It should be usable under pressure. Let us switch roles for a moment. Imagine you are auditing BlueRiver. Okay, the company says it's prepared for a chemical spill near a stormwater drain. What evidence would you ask for? Well, you might ask for the emergency scenario register. You might ask for spill drill records. You might ask whether drain protection has been tested. You might check equipment inspection records. You might review contractor induction records. You might review an incident report and the corrective actions that followed. Now, this is a useful question because preparedness must be visible through evidence, not only through intention. Now, a drill is not theater. It is not a performance for an auditor. A drill is a test of the response system. It tests response time, role, clarity, access to equipment, drain protection, communication flow, decision-making, contractor response, evidence, and records. BlueRiver can test different scenarios in different ways. So, for example, a chemical spill may require a practical drill. Wastewater overflow may be tested through a simulation. Firewater runoff may be tested through a tabletop exercise. Drought restriction may be tested through a scenario discussion. The purpose is not to show perfection. The purpose is to learn. So preparedness improves after learning. So after a drill or a real incident, BlueRiver should ask, what happened? What worked? What failed? Were roles clear? Was equipment available? Was escalation timely? Was the environmental impact contained? Were records complete? What must change? The answer may lead to a revised procedure, additional equipment, better signage, more training, clearer roles, stronger contractor controls, or improved operational control. This is how emergency preparedness becomes part of continual improvement. For this episode, the working tool is an emergency scenario and response matrix. This tool keeps the thinking practical. So, for each scenario, BlueRiver identifies the possible impact, the first response, roles and escalation, equipment, test or evidence, and learning trigger. The learning trigger is important. It defines when BlueRiver must review the response. So, for example, after a drill failure, a near miss, a real incident, missing equipment, unclear roles, or delayed escalation, for example. Okay? So this matrix helps emergency preparedness stay connected to reality. So here's a worked example for BlueRiver. So for a chemical spill near a stormwater drain, the possible impact is surface water pollution. The first response is to protect the drain and contain the spill. Escalation goes from operator to supervisor to the environmental manager. Equipment includes a spill kit and drain cover. Evidence may include a spill drill record or incident report. A slow response or missing equipment should trigger review. For wastewater overflow, the first response may be to stop or divert flow. Utilities, operations, and environmental manager may need to be involved. A near overflow or alarm failure should trigger review. And for contaminated firewater, BlueRiver may need drain isolation, containment, and communication with emergency services. For a contractor spill, the first response is to stop work, contain the spill, and report the event. For drought restriction, the response is to activate water priority rules. So you see, this matrix helps the viewer see progress. We started with possible emergencies, now we have response logic, roles, equipment, evidence, and learning triggers. So, the output of this episode is not just an emergency procedure, it's a practical emergency preparedness system. BlueRiver now has realistic water-related scenarios. It has first response logic. It has roles and escalation. It knows what equipment and information are needed. It has drills and simulations. It has evidence of preparedness. And it has learning triggers after drills or incidents. Now, the next question is, how do we know the EMS is working? Well, that takes us naturally to monitoring, measurement, analysis, and compliance evaluation. Okay, episode 12. So, closing thought. Emergency preparedness is the stress test of the EMS. Okay? It tests whether BlueRiver understands its environmental aspects. It tests whether operational controls are realistic. It tests whether people are competent. It tests whether roles are clear. It tests whether equipment is available. It tests whether escalation works. It tests whether the organization can learn from drills and incidents. So the practical question is not only, do we have an emergency procedure? No, the better question is, when something goes wrong, can BlueRiver respond fast enough to protect the environment? That is what makes emergency preparedness meaningful. So these are the next episodes, episode 12 about monitoring, measurement, analysis, and compliance evaluation. So the main question is, how do we know what is happening? And episode 13 is about nonconformity, correction, and corrective action. So the main question, what do we know? What do we do when control is not working? So, if your organization needs support with the transition to ISO 14001 2026, or if you are looking to improve your current EMS, perhaps I can help. I also support organizations that are starting from the beginning and want to implement ISO 14001 in a practical, business-oriented way. You can contact me using the email shown on the screen or send me a direct message on LinkedIn.